Yo, what's up everyone, man? How we all doing? Back again. Oversimplified. The war that changed the English language. This got requested quite a lot. So I figured why not, and at least the lighting setup's a lot better today. Jesus Christ. Go watch the video yesterday and skip to the end. Pretty funny. Let's get straight into it, because I think I know what war it's referring to, but I could be wrong. Let's have a look.
England in the Middle Ages. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, the children are playing in the village square. What a wonderful time to be alive. Hey, you're dying of dysentery.
Yeah.
And also we're being raided by Vikings. What an awful time to be alive. It's the year 900. Europe is a Viking's wet dream. Raids galore. Hey, you want to go raid Paris? Okay. That particular raid didn't go too well, but the King of the Franks said, "You guys are pretty tough and scary. How about we give you land in northern France, and in return, you protect us from other Vikings?" And it was agreed. The Vikings set up the Duchy of Normandy, and then they went full-on French, converting to Christianity, learning the language, and making babies with the locals.
Basically.
England also had its fair share of Viking problems. In the 800s,
Let me know if you've watched the Viking series with Ragnar Lothbrok. That's my top 3 favourite series ever, so let me know if you watched it.
of Normandy, and then they went full-on French, converting to Christianity, learning the language, and making babies with the locals. England also had its fair share of Viking problems. In the 800s, Danish Vikings had conquered most of the country, but the Anglo-Saxons eventually managed to kick them out, although they left behind a bunch of Viking settlers. Now this guy's king. He sucks. Replace him with his brother. And he was like, "Hey baby, how you doing?" and had a son, and then turned around and was like, "Hey baby, how you doing?" and had another son. And then he died and no one was sure which son to make king. This one, because he's older. Not if I have anything to do with it. That works for us too. Then he grew up and married the Duke of Normandy's daughter and had a bunch of kids. Remember this one. He's important. Then his advisors...
Oh, okay. I know where Aethelred. Aethelred. So, hold on. Oh, okay, yeah. Right. I thought they changed the name of Aethelred's dad for a second, but then I realised.
Married the Duke of Normandy's daughter and had a bunch of kids. Remember this one. He's important. Then his advisors came to him and said, "Hey man, all those Viking settlers that are living here, they might band together and kill you. Well then, why don't we kill them first?" And so it was. This pissed off the Danish king, who launched an invasion, and the Vikings conquered England once again. Then the Anglo-Saxons unconquered it, then the Vikings reconquered it. The king's family had to go into exile, including Edward. Remember him? He went to Normandy where he lived for 30 years. He and his brother Alfred tried to return to England to retake the throne from the Vikings, but they were betrayed by the Earl of Wessex, who said, "Hey friend, I'll take you to London where all the nobles are waiting to make you king. Oh no, look out, red hot poker in the eyes. I can't see, and thus you can't be king." Edward then escaped back to Normandy. After a few more Viking kings came and went, one finally died without an heir, and Edward was called back to England where he became king. And that's where our story begins.
Okay. Alright, I know where we're at.
Here's the thing about becoming a king in the Middle Ages. Often your entire country won't support you at first. You can be vulnerable to rebellions, and it's up to you to take control. Fortunately for Edward, there was already a super powerful guy who had a lot of control over England, and if Edward could get his support, then England would be his. Who is this guy? Oh, piss, it's the guy who gave my brother the red hot poker in the eyes. After an awkward moment where Edward exiled Godwin from the country, he eventually had to give in and let him keep his earldom, possibly after Godwin gave him a bunch of gold and said he was very, very sorry. King Edward also married Godwin's daughter. Then Godwin died, and his massive fortune was passed down to his sons, who all became earls. In particular, this one became the new Earl of Wessex. Harold Godwinson was now King Edward's brother-in-law. He was a close advisor to the king, a brave warrior who had proven himself in battle.
Read the paper.
Harold Godwinson was now King Edward's brother-in-law. He was a close
Royal stuff for the king only.
advisor to the king, a brave warrior who had proven himself in battle against the Welsh, and in many ways he was almost like a co-king. Uh-oh, Edward got old and he's on his deathbed. Possibly for religious reasons, or maybe because he wasn't happy about having to marry her, he didn't boink his wife, and as a result has no kids, meaning there's no obvious heir to the throne, meaning I'm gonna be king. He does have a grandnephew, it could be him. No, let's go with me.
Yeah.
Just one problem. I mentioned that Edward's mother was a Norman. Edward grew up in Normandy, and he had a lot of Norman friends. The current Duke of Normandy was William the Bastard. Why was he called the Bastard? One day his father was sneaking out of his castle when his advisors said, "Where are you going?" To the tanner's shop? Why? To get a...
Tan?
Tan. But that was a lie. Firstly, because tanners give you leather, not tans, and secondly, because he was really going to see the tanner's daughter. One thing leads to another, and out comes baby William, born out of wedlock. Thus, an absolute bastard. His father died when William was 7 or 8, and he became the new Duke. He spent most of his childhood narrowly avoiding assassination, which probably turned him into the big balls tough guy he's remembered as today. In 1051, the town of Alençon tried to rebel against him, and the townspeople beat on dead animal skins as an insult to his commoner mother. William was furious, and he responded by, well, let's just say it wasn't pretty. That's the kind of guy we're dealing with here. William and Edward were good friends, and Edward allegedly promised that William could have the English throne after him. A decade later, Harold Godwinson even visited William and pledged an oath to him over holy relics, promising that William could be the next king of England. Although it's possible Harold only did it because William was holding his family hostage.
I mean,
so when William heard
maybe.
that the king was on his deathbed, he said, hooray!
It sounds like a good bargaining chip, to be fair. But I forgot how complicated this was. Like, obviously we spent a long time on this in school, obviously. But, we're only on about the second faction here. I know there's a third faction to become involved in a bit. And I don't know what it is, like, with English monarchs and just lineage like that, it's just never been that interesting for me. This video is interesting, don't get me wrong, but I mean, learning about it in school, if you can picture learning about this in a textbook with, like, you got this guy over here, you got this guy over here, you got his daughters and his kids and his grandkids, and it's just like, like, it's so boring to learn about in school, this part of history. Which is why I said in the last video, I think this is the future of education. This is how it should be taught. Because even as oversimplified as it is, I wouldn't blame you for becoming confused already. Because we've already gone through about 6 or 7 people and we're not even halfway through. But you see what I mean. This sort of stuff was dreadful to learn out of a textbook because it's so complicated.
Because William was holding his family hostage. So when William heard that the king was on his deathbed, he said, hooray, I'm going to be king. So now you have two extremely powerful men who both think they're about to become the next king. But wait. This guy is the King of Norway.
Yeah.
He spent most of his life as a warrior for hire, fighting for whoever would give him the most gold. You name a place, he probably fought a war there. Poland? Yep. Estonia? Yep. Against pirates in the Mediterranean? Yep. The Holy Land? Sicily? And Bulgaria? Yep. He got crazy rich off the back of it and was swimming in gold. Then he returned home and became king. One of the previous Norwegian kings had made an agreement with one of England's Viking kings, saying that when that Viking king died, the King of Norway would get the English throne. Hardrada felt that because of this agreement, he was now entitled to the English throne. He was also eager to go on one last big conquest that would turn him into a legend. So when he got word that Edward was on his deathbed, he thought, I'm going to invade England, and then I'm going to be king. So now we have 3 extremely powerful men who all think they're about to become the next king of England, and that means somebody's probably about to get hurt. Back in England, Harold Godwinson is watching over the dying King Edward. Suddenly, he comes out with a shocking announcement. Hey, everyone, gather in. That's it. Come closer. Don't be shy. Okay, so I've got bad news. The king is dead. I know, very sad. But good news. He said that I should be the next king. So, hooray for me. And, oh yeah, he said that if he once told anyone else they could be king, that he doesn't like them anymore, and they should just stay in Normandy. And also he said that no one should ask any further questions.
Sounds
okay,
legit.
good talk. Go do whatever it is you do. Usually it took months of preparation to crown a new king, but Harold rushed it, and he had himself crowned the same day King Edward was buried. In Normandy, William's advisors came to him and said, Hey Big Willie, bad news, Harold Godwinson has taken the English throne. And William was furious, so he sent an envoy to Harold who said, William says you stole the throne and demands you immediately return it to him. Let me think about that. No. He said no. That bastard. Wait, I thought you were the bastard. Dude.
You bastard.
Uncool. William immediately began gathering his armies together and preparing for an invasion of England. Now, killing a king was generally frowned upon in old-timey Europe because they were considered to have been chosen by God himself. So back in Normandy, William had to get God on his side. He needed the Pope's blessing for his conquest, so he went to the Pope and said, Godwinson made an oath to me over holy relics.
That really is how it be. I'm just looking. I was in Italy a month and a half ago, and me and my girlfriend went to the Vatican. And I was just trying to see if I recognise that room, but I don't. Probably because it's off limits to the public. But you know what I mean.
And then he usurped the throne. Can I kill him? Sure, why not? So the Pope gave William his blessing, meaning William now had God on his side. Everything was ready to go. Just one problem. The wind. It was blowing the wrong way, and William had to wait with his army in Normandy, while Godwinson waited with his army in the south of England.
It's funny because it's the exact opposite of D-Day. If you know, well, we've already reacted to it. Couldn't go to couldn't make the great voyage to Normandy because the weather was bad. Got cancelled 3 times. And I suppose there's a certain level of irony to that.
Waited, and waited, and waited, and then William said screw it and sailed for England and got shipwrecked because the wind was blowing the wrong way. So then he decided to keep on waiting. They waited for 2 months and the wind never changed. Eventually Godwinson got bored and also ran out of food for his soldiers, so he sent them all home and he returned to London. The south coast was undefended and all William could do was keep waiting. While the northerly wind kept William in Normandy, it was carrying Hardrada and his Viking army to England. Hardrada landed near the old Viking city of York and defeated a regional army led by the northern earls, and York surrendered. When Godwinson heard about this, he must have been pretty upset. He had just disbanded his army, and now he had to gather them all together again and march all the way north. He made the exhausting journey in just 4 days, which is crazy quick, and he caught the Vikings off guard.
Just for what's the word I'm looking for? Just so you guys know how big this is. This is less than the size of Ohio, the UK. So I'm guessing from here to here is probably like, I don't know. I don't know. In miles, it's about 350 miles between here and here. This is London. This is 350 miles. It's about that.
Exhausting journey in just 4 days, which is crazy quick, and he caught the Vikings off guard and unprepared for battle. The two armies stood on either side of the River Derwent. Legend says that a berserker Viking single-handedly held the only bridge crossing the river, dodging arrows and fending off attackers, until some English soldiers got under the bridge in a barrel and gave him the old spear in the jewels. This gave the Vikings enough time.
You know what's funny about that? So, see this story about the berserker holding off English troops? We were taught in school, so we were taught that it was a Roman soldier thousands of years before that held off barbarians. And then like a few years later in your education, you learn that it was a Viking holding off, maybe it was the same bridge, maybe it was 2 different accounts, but it just seems to be something about foreign forces that are really good at holding bridges against English or tribesmen. I was like, I think it's a fairy tale story, personally, because it comes up like 3 or 4 times. There's other accounts of it happening as well, like during this great battle. But yeah, I think it is a falsification, but it is cool to hear. It's like, if it is true, that's fucking sick, because them berserkers were crazy. They used to I've heard that they used to eat people and all sorts of crazy shit.
Soldiers got under the bridge in a barrel and gave him the old spear in the jewels. This gave the Vikings enough time to form a shield wall, but because they had been caught off guard, many weren't wearing their chainmail and armor, and the English eventually defeated them, killing Hardrada, and with him, bringing the Viking era in England to an end.
Way.
Finally, William's fleet of over 700 ships and 14,000 men set sail and landed on the English coast at Pevensey and set up camp near Hastings. And Harold was still all the way in York. His exhausted army had to march all the way south just days after their battle with the Vikings. Harold made it to London and considered just staying there and waiting for William to come to him. But William forced Harold's hand by burning down a bunch of villages. Harold's army set out and met William's on the 14th of October, 1066, and both sides prepared themselves for the Battle of Hastings. The English were on a hill, so they decided to stay there because it was a good defensive position. The Normans approached, and the two sides probably spent a while yelling at each other.
Yeah.
William and the Normans had a few tactical advantages over the English. The first were the archers. The Normans sent volley after volley of arrows at the English, who formed a shield wall in defense. Then William sent his infantry up the hill. The English threw anything they had at them, and the Normans couldn't break through the shield wall. Then
I'm just thinking, I think the Battle of Hastings was before we perfected the longbow. I think. For those that aren't that clued up on like this sort of time period, the English longbow was like just a legendary weapon. You just had incredible range on it. But I'm pretty sure we didn't have that until like 1300s. I don't know. I don't want to butcher the date, but you get the idea.
Infantry up the hill. The English threw anything they had at them, and the Normans couldn't break through the shield wall. Then the Normans' next tactical advantage came into play. William sent his cavalry up the hill. but even they struggled to break through the shield wall defenses. Wave after wave of infantry and cavalry came, and Harold knew all he had to do was let the Normans exhaust themselves and he would win. But then something a bit strange happened. It's possible the Normans incorrectly believed William had been killed. Maybe they lost their will to fight against the shield wall, or maybe it was an intentional deception tactic. But suddenly, the Norman forces turned and ran away from the English. Believing they had won, the English broke their shield wall and chased down the retreating Normans, who then turned around, encircled the English troops, and cut them down. In the chaotic fighting that followed, Harold Godwinson was killed, the most popular theory being that he took an arrow in the eye. The English were defeated, and William had won. He was no more just a...
Just to let you know, I don't quite know where that theory comes from. That it could be another one of them fairy tale things. I haven't actually seen an account of that being true, but it's widely known as common knowledge. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't true.
Theory being that he took an arrow in the eye. The English were defeated, and William had won. He was no more just a bastard. Now he was a conqueror. At first, the English nobles were reluctant to make him king, but William burned down a few more villages, and the nobles eventually gave in and offered him the crown. As he was coronated, the local villagers in Westminster let out a cheer of support, but William thought it was a riot, so he burned down the village. William then had to go on a long and costly campaign of quelling rebellions and burning down villages all over England to force the people into submission, and England went through a massive transformation under its new Norman rule. English nobles were replaced with Normans. They built castles and grand cathedrals, but one of the most interesting changes occurred within the English language. The Normans brought their dialect of French to England, and it merged with Old English in ways we still live with today. First of all, the Normans were obviously the ones in power, so words related to power like government, judge, castle, and crown come from the Normans. Words that are considered posher or more refined are usually the Norman ones. At first, the Anglo-Saxons probably weren't that friendly to the Normans, while the Normans likely weren't that amiable towards the Anglo-Saxons. An Anglo-Saxon might come into a room, but a Norman would enter into a chamber. An Anglo-Saxon might buy themselves a shirt, while a Norman would purchase a blouse. And while that filthy peasant's new shirt may be fair, the Norman blouse is absolutely beautiful. The Normans actually considered some Anglo-Saxon words so crude that I can't even say them on YouTube. But there's more. Ask an Anglo-Saxon what job he does, and he might respond with some low-level trade, such as a baker, a miller, or a shoemaker. But a Norman has a skilled trade, like a painter, a tailor, or a merchant. The Anglo-Saxon farmers working in the fields owned many cows, pigs, and sheep, but once they were served up in a Norman banquet, they became beef, pork, and mutton. And written English changed too. Since many Anglo-Saxons couldn't write, the written language was romanticized. Your annoying friend that says Cool Whip might just be speaking an Old English dialect, as the Anglo-Saxons originally wrote it.
I just think of Stewie from Family Guy pretty much instantly.
That says Cool Whip might just be speaking an Old English dialect, as the Anglo-Saxons originally wrote it when, where, and what, but the Normans swapped the W and H around, and the long English A vowel sounded more like an O to the Normans, so you can thank them that you live in a home, not a ham. Hey, fun fact about William, the man couldn't read or write, not in French, not in English, not in anything. Well, what if I told you there was a place where you could learn French, English, even Japanese if you wanted? And not just that, pick up a musical instrument, learn to code games and apps.
Yeah, Skillshare. Okay, so that's the video done. Okay, so that I think I'm just going to reiterate what I said last video. This should be the way to learn this subject because, you know, if I don't know what you Americans learn in school about English history or the Battle of Hastings, or even if you cover it at all, but I'm sure you can appreciate how complicated that video was, even though it was oversimplified. So you can imagine how much the actual curriculum around it, how complicated that is, and just the sheer number of dates, names, family lineages, battles, all that you've got to remember. It's so complicated and such a hard topic to learn. I think this is definitely the best way of doing it. I thought it was a great video. I was kind of getting mixed up during it about which time period, where things should be. Like I was waiting to hear more about Aethelwulf and Aethelred and Egbert and yeah, the English longbow threw me as well, but maybe that was a few hundred years later. Well, of course it would be because, you know, it wasn't English then, was it? Yeah, okay. So I've cleared that up in my own head. Football war. Oh, I know what that is. It's South America, isn't it? Let me know what you guys thought. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. You know it means the most. So I'll get this video uploaded, and make sure you let me know what you guys want to see tomorrow, because it's only Tuesday today, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, got 3 more videos. Let me know what you want to see. But as for that, peace out, guys. Take care, and drop a comment.